Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we are going to be doing gametogenesis, and specifically, we're going to focus on spermatogenesis, which is the creation of sperm cells. Now, it's really important that you have familiarized yourself with all of the structures in the male reproductive system, but I'm going to go over some really important structures you need to know along with their functions, starting in the testes. Now, there are some key features that we need to look at. So, in front of us in the diagram here, we have the testis, and then sitting inside the testis is the seminiferous tubules. And these are the tubes where sperm cells are actually created. Then sitting just behind that, where all the tubes drain into, is something called the epididymis. The epididymis is where we mature our sperm cells, and they're stored until they are needed. And finally, we have what we call the ductus vas deferens, or I just call it the vas deferens, and you can do the same. It's the tube that leaves the testes and takes the sperm cells with it. Now, it's important to keep a couple of the following things in mind. Now, it's important to remember that the testes are outside of the body because sperm cells are made out of protein and they can denature and they're very sensitive. And so they need to be a slightly cooler temperature than the human body itself. So we find the testes on the outside. And that is the function of the scrotum, which we can't see in this picture here, considering that we are only looking at the internal structures of the testes themselves. Now let's take a look inside the seminiferous tubules themselves, the site essentially where we actually make these sperm cells. So in the diagram that you can see in front of you, what they've done is that they have cross-sectioned a whole bunch of seminiferous tubules. So we can see inside them. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the specific structures that you can see. So we're going to zoom in even closer so we can see more specifics. And starting on the outside, sitting around our seminiferous tubules, we have the Leydig cell. Sitting a little further in and physically now inside the actual seminiferous tubule is something called a Sertoli cell. And a Sertoli cell is essentially like a nutritive cell. It's a cell whose main responsibility is to look after the developing sperm cells, to provide them a place to mature and to grow bigger, because when we first make sperm cells, they're very small and they're underdeveloped, which we'll see in the next slide as we go through their maturation and development. And then you see something called germ cells, and you'll see that it starts off with the baseline, or this is what we also call the basement membrane, the furthest out layer. And you'll see that the germinal cells progress, and essentially they are moving from the wall inwards. And as they do so, they develop and they go through stages of mitosis and meiosis, which I'll do in the next slide so that you can see that. But essentially, a germ cell is a cell that is able to grow into a limited variety of cells. In particular, these germ cells are going to be turning into sperm cells. And please don't confuse germ cells with stem cells. Their origins are not the same, and their products are not the same either. So let's take a look at the growth and maturation of these sperm cells. And our sperm cells go through some major developments through the course of their existence. Starting off with what we call spermatogonia, which is essentially a undeveloped, undivided, still diploid cell. And this cell hasn't completed any of the growth or changes that we needed to do. So generally in this first section over here, our cell is going through mitosis, it is moving through general growth and getting bigger. Now, once the cell has reached a big enough size and it's gone through mitosis, it now needs to enter into meiosis, which we've already learned is when you take a full set of chromosomes and you want to half it. And you want to introduce genetic variation. And this takes place in this central area here. And so when we go through our two separate stages of meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, we ultimately want to half the chromosomes, keeping in mind that at the very beginning we were 2N which represents a diploid structure. And now we want to make cells that are just N, which means that they have half the number of chromosomes. Remember, meiosis 1 is where we halve the chromosome number. Meiosis 2 is when we separate the chromatids from one another. And then at the very end of our spermatogenesis and growing, we end up with our matured sperm cells. It's also important to know that mitosis takes place here as well. Because at the end of meiosis 2, we don't actually have a sperm cell yet. We still need to go through mitosis, and essentially, we're not making more cells. What we're actually doing is we're growing the cell. We're going to allow the cell to grow bigger, it's going to mature, it's going to get a tail, it's going to develop its mitochondria. And if we have a look alongside the major events, we also need to make sure that our sperm cells that we produce have certain structures. They need to have a head, a midpiece, and a tail. Now, the lifespan of spermatozoa, which is just the formal word for sperm, is that they're made every day and millions are made every day. However, there is a turnover rate of around several months. In other words, you can store sperm cells for up to 7 months, but they're replaced on a daily basis, slowly but surely. Now, what governs this entire growth and maturation process? Well, that is hormones. And these hormones are secreted just before and during puberty. And that's when spermatogenesis actually begins in males. Now, the two hormones that we need to be familiar with are ICSH, or interstitial cell stimulating hormone, and yes, you can use the abbreviation. And essentially, ICSH stimulates the testes to produce testosterone. Now, testosterone is then secreted, and one of the functions of testosterone is to produce sperm cells. And so that's what starts this entire growth and maturation point when males go into puberty. And you will need to know the names of these hormones and what they do. Lastly, we need to look at a sperm cell structure, and you should be able to draw or label this in a test and exam. So let's go through the structures and just recap what each of these do. So the acrosome is an organelle that contains digestive enzymes. And the reason for the digestive enzymes is because we need to break down the egg's membrane. When the sperm cells are burrowing into the egg, they need to be able to get into the nucleus of the egg itself and introduce its DNA. And so that's what the acrosome does. Then that brings me on to the nucleus. Now, of course, we know the nucleus is where we find all of our genetic information. And let's remember that this nucleus is N, which means that it is haploid. It has half the set of chromosomes that you would normally find in a cell. We then have our centrioles, which are left over from our meiotic and meiosis processes of separating cells. And then we have lots and lots and lots of mitochondria. We need this many mitochondria because they provide energy for the sperm cell to move. Now, what's interesting about our mitochondria that we find in sperm cells is that they are there to provide energy for locomotion. As we know, sperm cells swim, but the mitochondria never enters the egg cell, even though the sperm cell burrows into the egg cell. In actual fact, the only part of the sperm cell that actually manages to make it into the egg itself is the head of the sperm cell, which contains the nucleus. And this is actually proof and evidence of our evolution, particularly where and from what region we have evolved from. And all of us today have the same mitochondria. We call it mitochondrial descent. And essentially, what it means is that every single human on this planet has the same mitochondrial information that we've all inherited from an individual we call mitochondrial Eve. And finally, we have the axial filament, also known as our tail, and it propels our sperm cell in a propeller-like fashion, which means that the sperm cell doesn't actually wiggle from left to right. In actual fact, if you look at the sperm's tail when it moves, it's like a propeller and it does a twisting action forwards. All right, to end our lesson, let's do a terminology recap. So, we looked at spermatogenesis today, which is the generation of sperm cells. And sperm cells are made in the seminiferous tubules inside of the testes. Now, in order to start this whole process, an individual must be going through puberty. And to start, a hormone called ICSH is secreted to the testes. Once the testes receive this hormonal message, they start to produce the hormone testosterone. And testosterone is vital in production of sperm and the maturation of sperm. So, in other words, we can't actually do spermatogenesis without ICSH starting the process at the beginning of puberty and testosterone actually allowing us to grow the sperm cells. We then have the Leydig cell and the cells of Sertoli, which are both sets of cells are used to grow and mature and look after our little baby sperm cells before they are fully grown. We also looked at the words diploid and haploid, which, if you remember, refers to the amount of chromosomes a cell has. Remember, at the beginning of spermatogenesis, the cell will have a diploid number of chromosomes, in other words, a full set. At the end of meiosis 2, we will have a haploid set of chromosomes, which is what we want because remember, we want to halve the chromosome number because eventually we're going to take a sperm cell and an egg cell, put them together, and we want a full set of chromosomes. Not too many, not too few. We also learned the word spermatozoa, which is the more biological word for sperm, and we often shorten it down to just the word sperm. And last but not least, the new word we learned today was the acrosome. The acrosome is a organelle that contains digestive enzymes that allows us to break down into the egg cell so that fertilization can take place. Yet again, I hope that this video has helped you to understand and unpack the ideas. Please use it as a way to revise. And I'm going to be making another video that will be coming up next on oogenesis, and then a separate video on the menstrual cycle, because both of these things need to be explained in a lot of detail. And I will see you all again soon. Bye.